I'm a mushroom dude, don't really know why. Everybody says I'm a really fun guy. I love mushrooms. Mushrooms, put them in my soup. I don't think I'm really built for making rhymes on the fly, but what I am built for is doing book reviews. Welcome to Keep It Literature. My name is Jude, and today we will be reviewing What Moves the Dead by T Kingfisher. Now, I am not a huge nerd of T Kingfisher because this is actually my first novel by them that I have read. I am a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, though. I used to make Edgar Allan Poe around 20% of my personality when in high school. I was one of those kids. But I think this story has some accreditation to it. I did enjoy a lot of things about it, and there's a couple things that I didn't like. To start out, it had a very slow start. I believe it was a kind of a chore to get through the first 10-15% of it, but after that initial 15%, it really did pick up the pace, and it was something that I easily finished. I read this book in a day. It's around 152 pages, and I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts. To start off, we follow Alex, a non-binary soldier from the fictional country of Galatia, which I actually thought was a real country reading this, but it turns out that it's not, and I'm a dum-dum because in Galatia, when a female joins the army, they drop their pronouns of her, she, her, and they adopt the pronouns ka and kan, which just refers to soldier, plain and simple. So it was really hard to think of ka and kan as they, them, but I think that was just something my brain just wasn't doing, just being what it is. I think that's the problems that I had with that. But my biggest issue with this book is that it is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher, but it's set in the same time period. I didn't get the creative thought process behind that. If you wanted to retell the story, why not make it newer, like at least 1950s and up? Because I think going back to the initial time period of the same story, it's kind of feels like it's a copy paste type of story, and it just doesn't do your book any favors. That being said, I really love the mycology behind this. It is very interesting take, and the type of horror that it produces is more of like a body horror type scenario. So if you do like body horrors, this might be a book for you. And I really love the descriptions of the different funguses. We have a really good diverse cast of characters that I think really could have been expanded on. I think the side characters in this book is really where it shines. You have a mycologist, you have a doctor, you have 3 former soldiers, and it has the opportunity to really let them shine. Unfortunately, within the 152 pages that this book has, it felt rushed, and they really couldn't expand on these side characters that were super interesting, but just did not have enough pages to let them shine. But I'll digress and just say that the imagery within this is absolutely fascinating. The way that they play into mushrooms and the way that they interact with the world, they really have a diverse types of mushrooms that is described. And you find Alex in this really deserted kind of territory. The House of Usher is deep in the woods. It's remote. Where it goes wrong with this is there is an outside community. There's a village nearby, and you either get, I really can't decide how to put this. You either don't get enough from the village or you get too much of the village. I feel like if they were more isolated, it would work, or if they had more interaction from the outside community, it would work better. And that kind of had this jarring type of feel to me, and it really sucked me out of the story. I'll go ahead and say they really presented the environment and the House of Usher itself and the grounds that it's on. They presented it very well. It's kind of infested in mushrooms and decay, and it has a lot of themes of death and decay in this, and it really plays into the story. I really wish that T Kingfisher modernized this, though. I really wish that they had made this more in modern day, and they could have done this in a variety of ways, but they really chose to stick with the 1890s, which I don't know if it works for the story. But let's get to the good parts, and that is the the character behind all the side characters. They really did. They were very interesting. They did their job, but I really wish I saw more of them, because you have this diverse group of characters, but it's kind of all blocked out into individual segments where you don't really get to see much of them all at one time. And I really wish that we had that interaction within these five characters, because it's only five. And that was some of the most interesting parts of the book, is when they were all together. But as this book, like I said, it's 152 pages, and it felt very rushed. I just don't know how to vocalize it, but it either went on too long or not long enough. Where it went right, though, is if you are a fan of body horror, the imagery depicted in this book is absolutely wonderful for a body horror fan. I for one am a avid fan of body horror. If you give me people with 7 arms, or growing extra eyes in their head, or turning into slime monsters, or turning into a fly,
I love it. I love it.
It's one of the most exhilarating things to read about, is these grotesque depictions of bad things happening, and that is where this goes right. Body horror aside, I think that the main character wasn't really exactly a bright bulb. It seems like with what was presented in the book might could have been done a little better, or at least have the character catch on to what was happening sooner, so you could have more of an exhilarating, fast-paced ending. But the book was fast-paced after the first 25%, but I think that it really could have stretched out some of this to have more horror elements involved. It just really seemed rushed to me, and as I talk about this, honestly, I may lower my score of it, because it just had so much potential to do something more than what it did, and it just kind of failed to deliver that. I don't regret reading it. I think it was an enjoyable short kind of novella, but it missed the note on so many aspects. The notes that it did hit, I do got to give praise, because just listing the descriptions of what's going on around, and the different aspects of the environment, it was very interesting to read about. So overall, maybe I'd give this maybe 5 out of 10 hot dogs. I don't know. I talked myself out of giving it a higher score, honestly, just thinking back on it. If you do like body horror and you don't mind what's going on in the book, you want a quick read, I believe this might be up your alley. I know a lot of people have given it 5-star reviews and a lot of praise. It's just me personally, I think there was a lot of stuff to work with that just wasn't there, and that really is putting me off to it. But I do like it. I do like it. Don't get me wrong. I am glad I read it. And if you like horror and you want something quick to read, by all means, like 5.5 hot dogs is not a bad score at all. It's not bad. It's mid. It's mid. And it's not bad to have a mid book. It's just there's some things that would have made this read a lot easier. I especially do love the main character there. They have this very stoic soldier personality about them, and that really plays into the aspect of the story. And the author's use of ka and con, although like complicated with being ka and con pronouns, it did work after their initial like reasoning behind it, because of the soldiers in Galatia. Their pronouns are ka and con, regardless of if you're male or female, and that really helped solidify how it is to be like non-binary in the 1890s. But it also was a little complicated for me to get into and to register that's their pronouns. I feel like if it was in modern day, they could use they and them and it would have been a lot simpler storytelling. But they also have some pronouns like referring to children, which really plays a part later in the story. As for as the ending of it, I do think the ending was super rushed. It felt very ham-fisted in the way that they delivered the ending. And I again, circling back to it being just too short of pages to do what they're trying to do, that's where it fell to the bottom for me, is like the rushed ending, the not expanding on the characters that they have that are super interesting, and it just it didn't do it for me. The body horror and imagery depicted in this, though, I will say it was good. It was very beautifully written. I just kind of wish they would stick to what they were good at and took less of what was dragging the story down out. And I think that maybe it's due for a rewrite. If they were to edit this and rewrite it and expand on it more, or either tighten it up, I feel like this would be a solid 9 out of 10 stars. But unfortunately, right now, I do have to say that it's I want to agree on a 5.5 hot dogs out of 10. So if you read the book, or if you have read the book, let me know what you think about it in the comments. And if you have any recommendations for something that might scratch the itch of my horror aficionado inside of me, let me know. I'm constantly looking for new book recommendations, and I believe the BookTube community is fantastic at it, and that's exactly what I'm needing right now. I am, after this book, I'm going to continue my binging of fantasy as I resumed book number 2 in The Gentleman Bastards. And I am super excited to get to that because The Lies of Locke Lamora has become my favorite fantasy story of all time. It might be too soon to speak of it, but I'm just going to say right now, this is that book has become my favorite. So if you're looking forward to that review, or if you're a fan of fantasy, drop a subscribe and look out for that because it's coming. Other than that, you beautiful, beautiful people, I hope you have a really great day, and well, let's keep it lit.